look, we are on an easing trajectory now when it comes to the restrictions on the economy. I mean, the health threat from the coronavirus is being managed. The number of infections is extremely low. The number of community infections and the number of active cases is extremely low. So, obviously the sooner we can remove those state border closures, the better for the economy, the better for jobs in Western Australia, in Queensland, in South Australia, and indeed all around Australia. So of course we want to see those state border closures removed as soon as possible. In particular, given the advice from our Chief Medical Officer and Deputy Chief Medical Officer that there is no medical case for these state border closures to be maintained. I mean, they do come at a cost. They come at an economic cost, at a jobs cost, and if there is no health justification for them, then of course they should be lifted.
When should the borders reopen?
State borders, well, clearly as soon as possible. I mean, the Chief Medical Officer, the Deputy Chief Medical Officer have both indicated very clearly that there is no medical case in favour of these state border closures maintaining. And, I mean, the cases, the level of active cases is extremely low. The level of new infections is very low. So, I mean, essentially, the sooner we can open them, the better. The sooner we can open them, the better for the economy, the better for jobs in all of those states, as well as, of course, all around Australia.
But you are getting one message from federal health authorities, and then you're getting different messages from state health authorities. So, I mean, to be fair, does Mark McGowan have a point when he says that the messaging is inconsistent?
Well, look, I mean, I think we've got to be careful that we don't make political decisions here, that we make decisions that are genuinely based on the health and well-being of people in Western Australia, in Queensland, in South Australia, and indeed all around Australia. And, I mean, there's no question. I mean, we did face a very serious health threat when the coronavirus, started spreading and the spread was accelerating. But right now, I mean, that risk is being managed, and we've given ourselves the tools to stay on top of it from a health threat point of view. And, we do owe it to the people all around Australia, including in WA, Queensland and South Australia, to enable the economy to start growing again, to enable jobs being created again, to ensure that people in all of those states have the best possible opportunity to get ahead, to have job security, job opportunities moving forward.
Just onto the issues of trade at the moment, Minister, if you wouldn't mind. So it's been well documented, the issues with beef and barley over the past few weeks. There was initially some nerves surrounding iron ore yesterday, but they've since calmed down a bit. But now there are claims that Australian coal exporters face tougher restrictions selling into China. How concerned are you about that?
Well, I think that everybody needs to settle down a little. I mean, we have a very important trade relationship with China. It is a mutually beneficial trade relationship with China. I think that we're currently in a phase where in Australia we're perhaps over-interpreting, over-analysing and over-commentating every little move. And the iron ore example is a case in point. China made the very welcome decision to ease customs processing arrangements, to simplify and essentially lessen the burden for Australian and other exporters into China of iron ore when it comes to customs processing of iron ore. And of course, some of the initial commentary took the precise opposite perspective. When it comes to coal, over the years, China at various times, has imposed a level of informal quotas to help protect their local coal manufacturing industry. The industry here out of Australia has managed these developments effectively in the past. We'll continue to monitor this situation, of course. I mean, China's action will need to be compliant with World Trade Organization rules and indeed compliant with our China-Australia Free Trade Agreement. So we'll continue to monitor this. But this is not something that sort of has happened for the first time. It's happened in the past. It happens from time to time, depending on local requirements in relation to their own domestic coal industry. And we'll just have to continue to manage it. But my overall point, though, is we've got to just, take a bit more of a considered approach with some of these things and not try and jump on, every little move and every decision as if it's the end of the world. I mean, we have a strong, mutually beneficial bilateral trade relationship, and that will continue, for a very long time to come.
Okay, so this report of 9 newspapers today, it basically says that the Chinese government has started to warn state-owned power utilities not to buy new cargoes of Australian thermal coal. I mean, is our government aware of that? Is that true?
Well, look, we are aware of informal quotas being imposed from time to time locally in China. That is not a new development that has happened in the past. It's been managed by Australian exporters in the past, and we'll continue to manage it into the future. Okay,
just onto a few other quick ones before we go, Minister. The federal government ruling on these extra entitlements for casual workers yesterday. So casuals can get annual leave and sick leave and all the rest of it. I know this is probably outside of your portfolio in a legal sense, but from a business sense, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, it's very bad for business, in particular small and medium-sized businesses who are most likely to employ casuals, because it imposes a significant hit onto their budget bottom line at the worst possible time. I mean, when jobs are already under pressure because businesses are trying to survive, I mean, this is a potentially significant additional burden, which is likely to lead to job losses if not corrected. So, I mean, there's a potential that this decision will be appealed, and if it is appealed, certainly the federal government would intervene in that process, as the Attorney General has indicated. But we're also considering whether this needs a legislative fix. I mean, let's be. This is a matter of what's fair. I mean, when you're on a casual arrangement, you get a higher pay as a trade-off for some of these other entitlements. And what is essentially being said here is that you should be able to double dip and have both the higher casual rate as well as some of the entitlements that come with being a permanent employee. And I mean, that just doesn't pass the fairness test, let alone the economic viability test right now.
And just finally, the Treasurer making an announcement today to crack down on class action profiteers. Do you think this will put a brake on the industry?
Well, what we want to ensure is that litigation funders are subject to appropriate regulatory terms and conditions, the same as any other financial services provider. Right now, litigation funders are not subject to the Australian Financial Services Licence regulatory regime. We believe they should be, in order to ensure that appropriate professional and ethical and transparency requirements are imposed on them, like on every other financial services provider. So, we do believe it will improve the quality of decision making in that sector.
Okay, Minister, also Stephen Kennedy, he yesterday said that he wasn't expecting a V-shaped recovery. It was going to be more a squeezed U, which I guess is better than an L. What letter are you looking at the moment when it comes to our economic recovery?
Well, whether it's a squeezed U or a V, the important thing is that on the other side of the bottom, the line goes up. I want the line, and I think all Australians want the line to go up as far and as fast as it possibly can. We don't want the W. I can tell you that we don't want the W. But whether it's a squeezed U or a V, I'll take either.